There's tremendous awareness about sugar today and lots of resources. But where people struggled the most was not the why would I want to eat less sugar, or even the nuts and bolts of how do you go about doing it, but the actual yes, but how? How do you actually stop eating it? In that moment at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when all you're thinking about is driving through a drive-thru and getting an ice cream sundae, what do you do in that moment when you're craving it? Willpower does not work. We all have a limited amount of willpower. And what willpower is saying is that I am going to control and override the emotions and promptings and instincts and urgings that are arising in me. So willpower isn't the solution. Loving relationship is. And rather than fighting or trying to control cravings through willpower, trying to either suppress them or resist them or overpower them, I find that instead, if you make lots of room for them and you invite them, they will unwind and unravel. It's counterintuitive. In many ways, it's like a martial arts master where you're just stepping aside rather than trying to fight or engage. There is a relief in this, because what most people are trying to do is white knuckle their way with a sugar abstinence of never ever eating sugar again. And what happens is that desire, that sense of I need to control myself so that I never eat sugar again, can lead to its own pain and suffering, and can actually become its own form of addiction. Whether it's an addiction of binging on sugar or an addiction of abstaining from sugar, they both are addictions and they come from the same place and the same root. They are flip sides of the same coin. And so for many people, abstinence can be part of the journey, and it may be a part of their beginning journey with sugar. But to stay there is to abort the healing process. It's to short circuit it. Because what needs to be resolved is what's actually driving you to seek out sugar in the first place. And a sugar abstinence does not do that. What a sugar abstinence does and can do is it can serve as a buffer and a place where it can provide some breathing room. It's the doorway that can open you to some of the more emotional healing work with sugar. And so it can serve a purpose. But willpower-driven approaches where you're trying to control yourself do not work, and they only lead to frustration and discouragement, because what people tend to do is they think there's something wrong with me, rather than perhaps the approach isn't what's working. So letting go and moving out of abstinence, it can feel more encouraging and hopeful for people because they realize, oh, this doesn't have to be something that I'm doing for the rest of my life, as well as it can relieve so much of that shame and guilt of feeling like they need to try to attempt the impossible. If I could say anything to someone who was struggling with sugar, I would say two things.